Alright guys, bit of a change of scenery. We're back to some old scenery, working on that car there, because now that car is driving. So, Ben is here again, but it's not necessarily for a good reason. So, as a lot of you know, I've got that full built Gforce T5 in the car. So, that makes a lot of whining noise due to the aggressive cut on the gear set and all those big beefy gears. But lately I've noticed a rumbling noise, so I'll put a video in and show you guys what I'm talking about. So basically I've spoken to a couple of people, one of which was Paul from 5speeds.com. A lot of you have seen his videos. He's a very reputable gearbox builder. He reckons it is the spigot bush, so that is a chance. I honestly don't think it is. You've heard it, Ben. What do you...
Oh, it doesn't sound like a spigot bush.
No, it sounds very bearing-y.
Rattly, far more rattlier.
Yeah. So last time you were here actually, we did drop the oil from this and inspect it for debris, but nothing in there. No. But that can still mean early stages, can't it?
Yeah, it just means there's no wear particles floating around just yet. So.
Alright. So, do you want to run us through what genius bit of kit, and yeah, you might have noticed all these random bosses all over the gearbox.
So what we thought we'd do while the gearbox is still in the car is put a couple of these pads on at specific locations. So you've got the input shaft that runs across the top half of the casing, and then you've got the counter shaft on the bottom. And in this position and this position here, you have the bearing supports in the kit in the gear casing here and here. So what we thought we'd do is glue some of these pads on, and then we can put an accelerometer on there, one of these, and we'll stud that into there, and we'll be able to take stud, and we'll be able to take vibration measurements at a certain speed at the key locations, and then from there we'll have a look at the spectrum and see if we can identify or take a good guess at what's wrong with the gearbox before we pull it out.
Because it may not be evident once we pull it out, will it?
Yeah, it could be, it might not be, but while it's here we may as well take a bit of time, collect some data, vibration data off it. And
Ben gets to play with a $20,000 bit of kit.
So we've got the data collector here, and yeah, so bearing defects, gear mesh defects will all have a different signature in the vibration. So we may as well just take a little bit of time, collect some data. We may see something, we may not, but stay tuned.
You're not going to see this every day on YouTube, that's for sure. So I've obviously machined up these 25mm alloy bosses. Prior to this, I came in yesterday and JB welded them to the gearbox, so they should be strong.
Yeah, you have to cut about 15mm off it.
Oh no.
Oh no. It's not as deep in this side. You're gonna have to...
Alright, you figured it out?
Figured it out.
Re-remembered from a few days ago?
Re-remembered from years ago. Okay, so we've set up all the measurement points inside the machine. You can see there. The machine is Carl's box.
Oh, let me...
I don't know if you can read that. Carl's box.
Yeah,
so we go.
Take my word for it.
So we've got main gear case, and then we've got different measurement positions. So what we've got here is input radial. So that's on the other side up here in the radial direction, input shaft, and then we have input counter shaft radial, which is here.
Yep.
And we have input counter shaft axial, which is the axial pad here. There. We have output shaft radial, output counter shaft radial, which is here. And we have output axial, which is the one up the top here, just in there.
Yep.
So that should give us a fair idea of what's going on in the box. So next step is to start it up, and we'll run it to a speed that we think represents the vibration that we're looking for. So hopefully just between 1000 and 1500.
Yeah.
And we'll give it a shot and see how we go.
Alrighty. So I'll hop in and fire it up.
Yep.
Let me fetch a ladder.
Oh, you were serious about the ladder?
Yeah. No pleb shit. Alright, you ready?
Ready when you are. While I download that first bit and give it a look. It went straight to frowny face.
As in bad?
Yeah, because you can set some of the thresholds just based on the type of machine it is.
Right, so as you saw, we just did one. We're going to put a few more in where we can and I guess correlate the data. Ben's got to refamiliarize himself with the software because as you can see, it is quite a complex looking thing. So we'll do all this and then we'll get back to you with some results hopefully. Alright, so Ben's just getting all this set up, so I'm going to quickly drain the oil and we'll let that drain ready for inspection, and then I'll grab the camera and we'll go through this data with Benny. Give us a lowdown.
Okay, so we've loaded all the vibration data into the software. What we're looking at here are two signals from the input shaft, input side counter shaft radial location in acceleration and demod. These two signatures, and we can see here these light grey lines are the markers for the ball pass frequency outer race defect frequency for this Timken bearing, which is on the main shaft rear apparently. So you can see the areas of high acceleration are pretty closely aligned with the defect frequency. So we'll have a bit more of a closer look at the data and have a closer squeeze, but in the meantime we'll drain the gearbox, get it out, and we know that this is the area that we're looking for, so the outer race of that bearing.
So can you explain to everyone what all these abbreviations are?
Yeah, so BPFO is ball pass frequency outer, frequency inner, BSF ball spin frequency, so that's for the rolling elements, FTF fundamental train frequency, so that's the cage for outer ring stationary, and then the cage frequencies for inner ring stationary. So for all of these then we can characterize what's wrong with that particular bearing. So we had to do some research and find what the bearings are in the gearbox, and we don't actually know because we didn't build the gearbox, but from Googling those are the numbers that were given. So we've looked them up from the manufacturer's website, loaded all the defect frequencies in, and then they just place the markers on there. So you can do that after the fact. If we pull it apart and find different bearings, we can load those in as well.
So based on that, what are we looking at? Were you saying that the rear bearing was showing noise as well?
Yeah, it's labelled as a main shaft rear. The signature lines up strongest with the bearing that's meant to be in that location there.
Okay.
So we'll have a look. I mean, the casing is pretty small, so
could be resonating.
You're gonna pick up frequencies from all the locations. It's pretty small gear case, so yeah. But we took the measurements where we could. and we'll get it out and have a good look.
Alright, well I'll hop up, disconnect the shifter, and then all the rest of the magic happens down here. We've done this a million times, so what's another one to add to the list?
That's it. Everyone quicker than the last.
Yeah. You'll actually like working on this car. It's better than having the
Will I? On a
supercharge. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be out in an hour.
Alright.
I must say, Ben, pretty good, because that took us 25 minutes.
What are we going to do with the other 5 minutes?
We'll quickly check the diff. We haven't checked that since we did it.
Yep.
But anyway,
This out.
yeah, I've also noticed that's got a little bit of play.
Yeah.
And yes, I've got new tyres to go on, don't worry. Alright, shall we look at this? Alright. Okay, so that's a lot of radial movement.
Yeah. There's a fair bit of axial as well.
So it's got float, so
Yeah.
it's not shimmed properly.
Yeah, we'll have to
Basically.
check what the spec is for the float. Seems like a lot.
Because when I originally got this, that was really tight.
Was it?
Actually, you can kind of feel, does it feel a bit rumbly? Or is that normal?
That's more gear mesh.
No, yeah.
But it's easy enough. We'll whip the bell housing off and those 4 bolts, and then that front carrier will come out.
Got some degreasy.
Yep, and maybe a bit of a cleaner rag. I know, pushing my luck here. So there's always 2 sides to a rag.
I hate it when you pay a lot of money for something that's meant to be really, really good, and you end up having to fucking fix it anyway.
Oh, that's not good. But yeah, so this surface here to that surface there sets the end float with this bearing race here. You
Yeah.
can see the shim
And then
pack.
you shim it, yeah. And that's loose,
But the shim pack is loose, so the bearing's not seated all the way back here.
which makes sense. Does it look like there's any damage?
No, the bearing's fine. It's all looking pretty new. Pattern's okay.
It looks pretty even.
Yep. It's far dirtier than it should be in there. All that elastic and crap.
Should we check the bearing number too? LMFAO.
LM. It's for light series LM48510. Input shaft bearing retainer LM48510.
So that's right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
As
So
a
the
first-
shims basically get the exact amount of
Yeah.
preload to eliminate any end float.
Yeah. Well, it may be preloaded or it might be clearance. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I'm going to look at that.
I think it's neutral from memory. It's just so you can put your hand on the input and output and move it and not have anything.
there is a setup procedure you're meant to do. But what we can do is whip the casing lid off and the extension housing and have a good look at it. And then if everything's okay, we just clean this up, clean that up, check the shimming and put it all back together.
Yeah, alright. Might be a good chance to put my stock 5th speed in, because the 5th speed in this is
Did you order
0.63. Hey?
Did you order the 5th speed?
I'll pull it off my other box.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if it all slots in. So from memory, we have to pull the roll pin out of here. That assembly
Yes.
comes out, and this comes this way, and that goes that way.
Because you have done this to your box, haven't you?
Yeah, I've pulled my box apart.
When you popped a circlip.
Yeah, and I popped the circlip on the fifth drive. That's right. Thanks for reminding me.
Silly duffer. This is called do the job yourself and do it properly.
Yes,
If you know what you're doing.
it's all about time. Oh, this is going to be another fun job, all glued on.
Just gotta give it a tap.
How's that for a scholastic party? You see this here?
Yes.
This is dirt and debris. That's elasticy, soft. So that's a good thing. You see that line there is on the back of the casing and it sits on these ridges.
Yep.
And see this seat here controls the bearing clearance for here. That's the seat for here.
Okay.
So when you shim the box, you're relying on that being there. And when you put the elastic, you can see.
Yeah, you're adding.
Some people argue that it adds
mil.
no thickness, but it does because you can see
Oh,
that it's
definitely.
got.
And it's not an even.
See there, you got colour.
It's not an even thickness either. Buzz the lid off, he says. Yeah, Ben, come over for half an hour. We'll get the box out, then I'll.
Yeah. We'll just and take some measurements. Next thing you know, deep inside the box. So this is the reverse shift mechanism. You see down there is your reverse indicator. Right.
Yeah, it's like a little ball bearing switch or something, isn't it?
Yeah. So that when that gets depressed,
It's hard to see, but yeah.
reverse comes on, as opposed to just staying indoors all the time.
Right down there.
Yeah. So when this is the lever for reverse, when you pull it like that, it selects the reverse gear. And from memory, it also uses the 5th gear synchro as a brake for the whole mechanism. But you can also see how thick and nice the gears are.
Yes, that is why they make a nice whiny noise, because they're such an aggressive. Like that's a stock gear, mind you. They're not all that kind of helix, but you can see the difference. How do they look, Benny? They look alright to me.
They look okay, but I'm concerned about the gear mesh patterns. Oh dear. Yep.
Oh, don't fucking.
That's no good.
What?
The gear on the input shaft is worn and pitted. See here?
Oh, fuck off.
Yep. That's worn and pitted. Your engine turns clockwise, so it turns this way. The weird. Okay, that's due to a
Insufficient preload or shimming.
Your engine turns clockwise. There's something strange about the way the gear is set here, because the engine turns clockwise from the front. Oh, so it turns anti-clockwise from the back. Yeah. So what that means is the pressure side, the drive side of the gear when you're going forwards, is this side here. And what you see here, this is a good example here, it's got a very heavy wear offset, so this gear is not in alignment with the mating gear down the bottom, and it's got a very heavy load on this side of the gear, and that's where you can see it's pitted. So the coasting side of the gear is this side, the back side here, and you can see there's no wear at all. And you can see the corresponding wear on the drive side of the Gforce gear set. So in some of the gears it's not so bad, but you're lucky you pulled it out now, because it would have only got worse.
Well, how does that get fixed? Because I'm not getting a new input shaft.
If this gear can be replaced on the input shaft,
no, it's milled onto it, man.
The only other way, if you're not going to replace it, is we can refinish the gear, clean it, but it will be noisy.
As in whiny, noisy? Or?
Yeah, because
it already whined.
Because the gears have an involute profile on them.
That is $2,200.
Yeah.
This.
So let's get it out, because we definitely need to pull it all apart now to have a closer look at that and the mating gear.
Don't you love coming to help me, Ben?
Oh man, this is like my day job.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, so what it looks like is that the tip at the top of the gear, when it meshes in, it's either cut wrong or it's shimmed wrong. So basically what's happened is, as it's loaded up...
Well, it wasn't shimmed right.
Yeah, as it's loaded up, it looks like the gear's twisted. Yeah, you can see the gears, these have had some sort of polishing finish to them.
Yeah, they're all micro polished. Well, they were meant to have been.
Yeah, they look to have been, but you know, even the other gears, like between this gear and this gear, you see. So this is first, this is second, and these clutches, that's the neutral position there. So that's neutral as well. So basically, what happens is first gear comes in, and this is in constant mesh with the main cluster.
Yeah.
As is this, and so on. And what happens is, when you select the gear that you want, it drives from here to the main cluster and splines it to the output shaft. So there's the output shaft like that. You see the output shaft's moving independently. So basically it looks like it wasn't shimmed, but the other thing that's an issue, you should also check the rest of the gears. So the second gear cluster, so you see the tip of the second gear is meshing very close to the tip. You can see that there, as opposed to midway.
Yeah, hard to see on the camera.
It's hard to see on the camera. You can see it in real life in here as well, on this gear. Third gear looks okay. You can see that it's meshing in the middle. That one's okay. This one's seen hardly any work, but it also looks to be, yeah. It's also meshing on the top. It's meshing on the top. Anyway, let's get out of the casing and have a closer look.
Okay, so the camera doesn't run out of memory, so you missed us taking fifth gear off. That all looked good. Got a nice new synchro in there, which is good. But look at this. Morse elastic. Hopefully it'll focus. Right there, blocking oil galleries.
So that was trapped under the fifth gear counter shaft gear. In this space
What
here.
a joke. So everywhere that needs to get oil has been blocked with spastics elastic. Okay, so we've got the main shaft out now. The rear bearing race seems okay. Is that right, Ben?
Yep, that looks good.
We also found out why we weren't getting any metal particles. The big magnet at the bottom.
That's definitely
ferrous. Ferrous wheel.
First stage. You can see the tips of the gears are worn, or they have wear marks.
Detrimental? Or?
No, they're not too bad. These are obviously harder than your input shaft gear. Now, according to the Holden spec, it should be 0.013 to 0.1 in float. That's a lot more than 0.1.
Have you got your dial indicator?
I do, with a new mag base I bought.
Ooh,
Especially.
shame the case isn't magnetic. This rule of convenience you've been speaking of, Ben.
So the rule of convenience. If you see something that makes your life easier and it's under $100, don't even think about it. Just do it. Just get it, move on to bigger and better things.
Oh,
well, it still doesn't explain why it takes us so long to do anything, but that's another story.
That's just lack of time.
Time poor.
That's right.
That's right. So if you're time poor, use the rule of convenience. It's under $100, just buy it.
What if you're money poor?
Well, you're going to have to work out something then.
Alright, let's get back to it.
Alright, virgin mag base, mate.
So just before we take a technical measurement, what's your guesstimation, Ben?
My guesstimation, I reckon 0.2 to 0.3.
And what are we looking for? 0.1?
0.1 absolute max.
Let's see how good you're.
Ooh.
0.15.
1.5 or so.
I'll give you that, that's pretty good.
Well, it's more than a wee bit because that's the absolute max that you're allowed to. So you 0.013 to 0.102. Yeah. What you do is leave everything as it is, clean it all up. You can reshim that and then build it all back together, reshim the front, work out what we're going to do with the gears, throw your other fifth speed in and it's back together. While you're here, you may as well check each cluster end float clearance. It's just a field blade measurement.
Yeah.
It might be different though because these gears are wider.
I'd say it would be. Alright, so show me what you, we'll show the camera what you just showed me, Ben.
Okay, so these bearing fits are a little looser than ideal. You see how loose that is?
Jeez, that's, yeah.
Now, the reason that type of loose fit is not the best is that you can get micro movement and the fretting corrosion, and you can see on here, it's already started to wear a bit of a step into here. And what that means is, as it wears, you lose your bearing preload because the bearing comes further into the seat. So you see here, and that's because this is moving on the seat. You can also damage the journal. And if you look closer at the gears here, you see there's a shiny worn patch on this outer edge here, which is pretty much where that starts there. See there? So I'll put that on there. You can see the interface contact is not much at all. That shoulder realistically should be a bit bigger. And you can also see for like the 10,000 Ks that you've had, it's already started polishing against each other. So you'll lose a bit of preload if that was allowed to continue into the main cluster. So basically
because that's spinning against that.
Yeah, so this can be allowed in operation to move relative to the shaft. The tolerance for here is not quite right, matched to this. So the quick fix, given what you have here, is just use a bit of retaining compound to stop it turning.
But other than that, the bearings are
all fine.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely fine. Just a clean out and they're good quality bearings. We'll use them again.
What are they, Timkins?
These ones are Timkins. Yep. Classic for the imperial size. These are all imperial toleranced.
Yep.
Or imperial size. Now, the good news.
Oh, so that was the bad. Okay.
That was the bad news. And you can see the same things happening here as well.
Is that good, is it?
Well, no, that was the bad news. You can see it's already worn off the writing on the bearing in that short period.
Oh god, yeah, you can imagine what kind of impact that will have on the clearance then.
Exactly. So this is the mating gear for the first gear assembly.
So this is what was wearing the input shaft.
So this runs like that. Hello? The good news is that this is the cluster that's splined and replaceable. So you can unspline that and you can replace this assembly here. So if those teeth start wearing quite badly, you don't have to replace the whole thing, you can just replace this bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll sell you just this bit.
Yeah, that's the issue.
But you see here, you can see where it started abrading. The mesh is not very good. So if the clearance set isn't right on a gear set cluster, what you also have with the helical gears when they mesh together is you have separating forces, so the two gears want to come apart.
Yeah.
And
is that that's normally what blows third in these, isn't it? A lot of the time.
What blows third is the flex of the bearing retainer, which is on this side here.
Yeah, that billet alloy.
Which is the other side of this shaft.
Yeah.
So what happens under high loads is you have a separating force, so the two gears want to pull apart, and because of the helix angle you also have a thrust load. So when you combine the separating force with the thrust load, you end up with the gears offset and the teeth coming further apart. And if you look here, you see here the tooth mesh pattern is offset and it's high. So I guess worst case is you dress this, clean everything up, reset it back with the right preloads. And
do you think it'd be worth setting the preload up slightly tighter than?
I would set it all on the tight side. Yeah, definitely. I'd tune them all on the tight side. Which is what that guy was saying in his video. He always sets them to close to 0.
Yeah.
And 0.01 is pretty much 0.
Yeah.
So, bit of work ahead of you. Snap all this elastic off here, especially these surfaces here. You can see here where the reverse counter gear rides on has already started threading up as well.
Yeah.
So a few little tricks on the assembly. Places like that you might put a little bit of mounting paste.
Yeah.
The bearing, a bit of retaining compound there. That's easy to get off. It gives a bit of heat with a torch when you kind of disassemble it, will break that.
Yeah.
Clean the gearbox casing, all these flange surfaces. This here needs a good clean. You can see it's starting to wear through. It's still serviceable. You know, you'd still go one more round there. All that has to come out, and then you can take that seal with you and get a vite on one of those seals.